Have you ever wondered why Israeli politicians struggle to understand Saudi perspectives? The story lies not just in the overt differences, but also in the subtle, almost imperceptible threads that weave their respective narratives. At its core, this is a tale of cultural nuances, historical complexities, and geopolitical undercurrents that define their diplomatic relationship. To comprehend this conundrum, one must delve into the intricate histories and ideologies that shape their worldviews. A tale of two civilizations. Israel and Saudi Arabia represent two ancient civilizations that, while geographically close, are worlds apart in their cultural, religious, and historical experiences. Israel, a nation with deep Judaic roots, has emerged as a modern democratic state in the Middle East. It views itself as a bastion of liberal values and technological innovation in a region often marred by authoritarianism. On the other hand, Saudi Arabia is the cradle of Islam, a land that proudly upholds its religious and cultural traditions while navigating the complexities of modernization under its Vision 2030 initiative. For Israeli politicians, understanding Saudi perspectives requires a grasp of the kingdom's deeply ingrained Islamic values and tribal structures. Saudi Arabia's worldview is shaped by its role as the custodian of the two holy mosques, a position that imbues it with both spiritual authority and immense responsibility. Unlike Israel, whose political system thrives on debate and diversity, Saudi Arabia operates within a framework of consensus building among tribal and religious elites. This fundamental difference often leads to misunderstandings about each other's motivations and decision-making processes. Historical complexities. The historical relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia has been fraught with challenges. Since Israel's establishment in 1948, much of the Arab world, including Saudi Arabia, viewed it through the lens of colonialism and occupation, particularly in relation to the Palestinian issue. Saudi Arabia, as a leader in the Arab and Islamic world, has historically supported the Palestinian cause, advocating for their right to self-determination. The legacy of this historical stance still echoes today. For Israeli politicians, this creates a blind spot. They often struggle to reconcile Saudi Arabia's outward pragmatism, evident in its recent quiet overtures toward Israel, with its unwavering support for Palestinian rights. What Israeli leaders sometimes interpret as duplicity is, in fact, a reflection of Saudi Arabia's balancing act, maintaining its domestic and regional legitimacy while exploring avenues for strategic partnerships. Cultural nuances. Culture plays a pivotal role in shaping perspectives, and the cultural gap between Israelis and Saudis is significant. Israeli society, with its diverse immigrant population, often embraces a direct, sometimes confrontational style of communication. In contrast, Saudi culture values subtlety, indirectness, and a high-context communication style that places emphasis on what is not said as much as what is. This disparity can lead to misunderstandings in diplomatic settings. When Israeli politicians press for rapid progress or overt commitments, they may inadvertently alienate their Saudi counterparts who prioritize patience, discretion, and long-term planning. For Saudi leaders, preserving dignity and avoiding public embarrassment are paramount. Any misstep by Israeli diplomats, even if unintended, can be perceived as a lack of respect for Saudi customs and traditions. Hidden agendas and geopolitical realities. Beneath the surface of Israeli-Saudi relations lie hidden agendas and competing geopolitical priorities. Both nations have much to gain from cooperation, particularly in countering shared threats like Iran. However, their paths to achieving these goals are often at odds. For Israel, normalization with Saudi Arabia is seen as the crown jewel of its broader strategy to integrate into the region. Following the Abraham Accords with the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco, Israel views Saudi Arabia as a potential game changer in shifting regional dynamics. Yet, for Saudi Arabia, normalization with Israel is far more complex. It must navigate domestic opposition, the expectations of the wider Muslim world, and the unresolved Palestinian issue. Saudi Arabia's leadership is acutely aware of the risks associated with overtly aligning with Israel. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, has spearheaded significant reforms within the kingdom, but these changes have not eradicated conservative sentiments. Aligning with Israel too soon or too openly could jeopardize his broader vision and risk alienating key domestic constituencies. Moreover, Saudi Arabia's foreign policy is intricately tied to its regional leadership role. The kingdom cannot afford to be seen as abandoning the Palestinian cause, which remains a central rallying point for much of the Arab and Islamic world. While Israel might interpret Saudi hesitation as a lack of commitment, it is, in fact, a reflection of the kingdom's need to balance multiple, often conflicting priorities. Unspoken histories. Unspoken histories further complicate the relationship. While overt hostilities have diminished in recent years, the scars of past conflicts linger. Saudi Arabia's role in the 1973 oil embargo, aimed at pressuring Western nations to distance themselves from Israel, remains a potent reminder of the kingdom's historical opposition to Israeli policies. Conversely, Israeli leaders often recall Saudi Arabia's support for initiatives like the Arab Peace Initiative of 2002, which proposed normalization in exchange for Israel's withdrawal from occupied territories. While the initiative was largely dismissed by Israel at the time, it signaled Saudi Arabia's willingness to engage diplomatically under specific conditions. Revisiting these moments with fresh perspectives could serve as a bridge for deeper understanding. Bridging the divide. To move forward, both nations must bridge the divide of misunderstanding. For Israeli politicians, this means recognizing the depth of Saudi Arabia's cultural and historical context. Understanding Saudi perspectives requires more than strategic calculations. It demands empathy, patience, and a willingness to engage with the kingdom on its own terms. One potential avenue for fostering understanding is through people-to-people exchanges. While official diplomatic relations remain elusive, informal cultural, academic, and economic exchanges could lay the groundwork for mutual respect. By showcasing the shared human aspirations of their peoples, such as prosperity, security, and stability, both nations can build a foundation for deeper ties. Another critical step is addressing the Palestinian issue. For Saudi Arabia, any rapprochement with Israel is contingent upon meaningful progress toward a two-state solution. Israeli politicians must recognize that Saudi Arabia's support for the Palestinian cause is not merely symbolic, but deeply rooted in its identity as a leader of the Islamic world. Genuine efforts to address Palestinian grievances would not only improve Israel's standing with Saudi Arabia, but also enhance its legitimacy across the broader Arab and Muslim worlds. The role of leadership plays a pivotal role in shaping the trajectory of Israeli-Saudi relations. Both Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman are known for their bold decision-making styles. However, their approaches to diplomacy differ significantly. Netanyahu's focus on security and pragmatism often clashes with MBS's emphasis on vision and long-term strategy. While Netanyahu views normalization as a strategic imperative to counterbalance Iran, MBS approaches it as part of a broader reimagining of Saudi Arabia's role in the region and the world. Finding common ground requires both leaders to acknowledge and respect each other's priorities and constraints. The broader regional context. The Israeli-Saudi dynamic cannot be understood in isolation. It is part of a broader regional context. The Middle East is undergoing significant transformations, from the shifting alliances brought about by the Abraham Accords to the growing influence of external powers like China and Russia. In this evolving landscape, both Israel and Saudi Arabia face opportunities and challenges that necessitate greater cooperation. Iran's role as a shared adversary is a key driver of potential collaboration. Both nations view Iran's nuclear ambitions and regional activities as existential threats. However, their strategies for countering Iran differ. While Israel advocates for maximum pressure, including military options, Saudi Arabia prefers a combination of deterrence and diplomacy. Reconciling these approaches requires candid dialogue and a willingness to compromise. What lies ahead? As Israeli politicians and Saudi leaders navigate this intricate dance of diplomacy, the path forward is fraught with uncertainties. Will shared interests overcome historical grievances? Can cultural and ideological divides be bridged? And most importantly, will the two nations find a way to balance their aspirations with the realities of their domestic and regional contexts? The answers to these questions lie in the willingness of both sides to engage in genuine dialogue. For Israeli politicians, this means moving beyond a transactional approach and investing in a deeper understanding of Saudi Arabia's worldview. For Saudi leaders, it involves articulating their concerns and expectations in a manner that fosters trust and cooperation. Conclusion. The relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia is a complex tapestry of history, culture, and geopolitics. It is a tale of two civilizations striving to find common ground in a region defined by its contradictions. By acknowledging their differences and embracing their shared aspirations, Israeli politicians and Saudi leaders can write a new chapter in the history of the Middle East, one that promises peace, prosperity, and mutual respect. This unfolding saga is more than a geopolitical puzzle. It is a testament to the power of understanding and the potential for transformation. The stakes are high, but so too are the rewards. As the world watches this story unfold, one can only hope that wisdom and vision will guide the way forward.